The answer is, unsurprisingly, it's personal preference. Now, in all seriousness, the answer is a little bit longer, and we'll dive into this and discuss this. Controller or keyboard mouse? Many PC players, especially the people who recently started the game, ask themselves this question. I want to tell you about the pros and cons and the differences between controller and mouse keyboard. We will also discuss if you should consider switching to one or the other. Let's start with controllers. Obviously, playing with a controller is the most common choice for many players, including pros. This, however, does not mean that keyboard mouse is worse. The biggest advantage for controllers over keyboard mouse is the amount of control and accuracy you can get by correctly using your controller. You can control exactly how fast you turn your car, whether on the ground or the air, or how much you want to accelerate. You get 360 degrees input from the joysticks, and this will allow you to move your car like this, or like this. While dribbling, you can also move slower, which allows for more ball control. Doing this kind of movement is simply impossible with keyboard mouse. You will have to repeatedly tap your keys in order to get slower movement. A good example for controller precision is the half flips you can do. You can flip 180 degrees, 90 degrees, or really anything in between. All of this directly translates to the biggest disadvantage of using a controller. When you have a device which allows for so much precision, making only small errors with positioning your joystick can lead to a big mistake and a problem for you. Not correctly positioning your joystick can, for example, lead to you making diagonal flips instead of side or front flips. If you can get consistent enough, this disadvantage disappears, of course, but for many, including me, this will always leave room for errors. Let's start with the biggest disadvantage here, precision and accuracy. You'll simply not get the same amount of precision with a keyboard as you get with a controller. As you get better with keyboard mouse in the game, however, this disadvantage will fade away. There are so many insane freestylers that play with keyboard mouse with incredible accuracy. There's also pros competing at the highest level playing with keyboard mouse. The reason why this is still a disadvantage for keyboard mouse is because of the way that keys behave. Let's take the key you press to accelerate. The key is either pressed or it's not. You can either accelerate 0% or 100%. There is just no in between when playing with keyboard. The same applies when steering your car. You either steer 100% to the right or 0%. You press the key or you don't. With that, you end with about 8 directions in which you can turn your car with keyboard mouse. Don't let this scare you away from keyboard mouse though. Keyboard mouse players are perfectly capable of precise ground and air movement, as well as dribbling. As you could guess, this makes for the biggest advantage over playing with a controller. You can get crazy consistent with your movement since there are only so many directions you can turn to. Many mechanics like half flipping and stalling are just easier to learn and get consistent with keyboard mouse. This is something you have to answer for yourself. I can tell you a few of my thoughts and personal opinion about this though. If you're already a Rocket League veteran and compete actively in ranked, I would advise against switching. The learning curve is just too long and it's not worth it in my opinion. I have tried switching to keyboard mouse myself with a second account, on which I exclusively played with keyboard mouse to see what rank I end up with. For context, I play with controller on my main account and I was sitting comfortably in low grand champ last season. With keyboard mouse I managed to reach champion 2, but that was mostly due to my decision making and not my mechanical skill with keyboard mouse. Learning to spin while flying and getting my mechanics back would take me ages and the time is not worth it for me. If you're not that high up in ranked, are a new player, or simply don't know many mechanics yet, it may be worth considering a switch. Just ask yourself, you know yourself best. Are you a consistent player that can perform very consistent even under pressure? Controller is probably the way to go. Do you think you would struggle with keeping a high consistency and have hiccups under pressure? It's probably better to go for keyboard mouse. I personally wish I switched to keyboard mouse at the beginning of my career, because even at Grand Champ I still make many mistakes by just not moving the joysticks with enough accuracy. Now, as I said in the beginning, it's personal preference. Nothing is better over the other, but for you it can be. With that said, thank you very much for watching. Peace.